Hello there, y'all. I'm Rain, and this is Fennec Fables, where we delve into fun things about tabletop role-playing games, including prompts, ideas, stories, or in this case, systems. I figured it was time to round out the video series I've been doing on Pokemon Tabletop United with a little demo of a round of combat in the system, so that we could put everything I've talked about together in one single video. If you've not watched any of the previous videos, this may not make a lot of sense, so the link to those previous videos will be in the upper right-hand corner. I highly recommend them. I thought they were fun and people seem to like them. It's been a fun time talking about this system, and I'm hoping to come back to it again in the future. In particular, I'm hoping to run an actual play game of it for y'all to watch, but that's going to be far in the future. If you want to keep up to date on all those possibilities though, as well as any other videos and announcements, please hit that subscribe button, as it really does help me out and keeps y'all apprised of all the things going on. Don't forget to stick around till the end to see a cute photo of my dog as well. That spiel out of the way, let's get to the battle, shall we? In this scenario, I decided I wanted to run a 2v2 fight. I'm keeping things a little simple for the sake of my own self and to make it clearer for you guys, so each trainer put all their focus into one core class. These trainers and their Pokemon will be a cheerleader with a Charmander, a duelist with a Machop, both on one team, versus a commander with a Bulbasaur and a sage with a Ghastly. I will note that typically special powers from trainers are not allowed in league battles, but in this example, we're going to ignore that and say that this league allowed it. As a general rule of thumb, at the start, all trainers are expected to put their first Pokemon out without using any actions, as it'd be kind of tedious to hold everything up with everybody tossing out a Pokemon and using up one of their limited actions. So yeah, that's the general rule of thumb. Though be aware, you still do have to change out your Pokemon when you're tossing it later, so don't think that's me saying you can skip it. We start off with the initiatives, and since this is a league battle, trainers and Pokemon have separate initiatives. In a league battle, the slowest going first and announcing what they would like to do, then up to the fastest, and then everything happens in reverse order, with the fastest happening first to show how those with a faster speed are reacting to and adapting to those with a slower speed. Think of it kind of like the stack in Yu-Gi-Oh! If that helps things. Initiatives are based off the speed stat, though Pokemon and trainers can get boosts to this via moves and training, which we'll get to in a moment. In slowest to fastest order, we have the Sage with 15, Cheerleader with 18, Commander with 20, and Duelist with 22. The Sage announces what they will do on their turn, which in this case will be using the Sage ability on their ally Bulbasaur as an at-will standard action. This means that they will be gaining damage reduction equal to the Sage's occult rank, which is 4, doubled to 8 for this round, or the Pokemon's tick value, whichever is higher, but in this case it's the 8, so that's a great boon for the Bulbasaur. Next is Cheerleader, who will be giving the focus order to their own Charmander for an extra +1 to hit as their action, but since they used an order, they can use their Cheerleader ability. Since they only targeted their own Charmander, it also doesn't cost them any AP to use this, as they get to apply a buff to them. In this case, they're going to give out the Excited condition, which is something they can spend to reduce some damage in the future by 5. Then comes the Commander, who is going to go all out with the Agility training order as a standard action, which, thanks to the Battle Conductor ability, he can apply to both his and his allies' Pokemon, meaning both Bulbasaur and Ghastly have an extra 4 to their initiative during their round, which will pay off strong, I guarantee it. Capping us off with the Duelist, they're going to use the Swift action to tag the Ghastly as their target to activate the Momentum Tracker. As their standard action, they're going to give the Focus order to bump the Machop's 2-hit by 1. Since each trainer has announced their intentions, we can then resolve all those in reversed order, with the Duelist, then the Commander, Cheerleader, and finishing off with the Sage. Trainers could also have moved, but unless you're in a big arena with abilities with ranges, that won't really come up all that much. There is stuff like throw range, but again, if you're playing an arena that big, please let me know. I'd love to see it. Now we move on to the Pokemon. So as I mentioned before, initiatives are based off the speed stat, but can be augmented by things like moves, training, abilities, or items. In this case, some orders the trainers gave are going to affect things, as well as the training they had before the fight even began. As a quick refresher, standard trainings being Focus, Agility, Brutal, and Inspired can be used as orders or as training. When used as training, the buff applies for the rest of the day, and can be stacked with the order again in the future. I'll show you what I mean. Going off the speed stat alone, the expected order for the Pokemon's initiatives would have been Charmander with a blistering 16, Ghastly with 13, Machop with 10, and poor Bulbasaur at the end of the pack with 7. But all these trainers trained their Pokemon before this big match. Charmander was given focus training to better hit their target, Ghastly was trained with Brutal and more likely to get their secondary effects off because of it, Machop was also given focus training to focus down a single target and wipe them out, and Bulbasaur, well, he was given agility training to make his movement and his initiative higher. Not only that, but Commander also just gave him the agility order, which stacks with that training, and Ghastly got it too. So what at first looked like this is now instead going to look like this. Now, unlike in the trainer section, Pokemon combat is straight down the initiative line. Let's start off with Ghastly, who beat the leader Charmander by 1. Ghastly sees its buddy Bulbasaur is gonna be in a tight spot, so it's gonna try to intercede. Using its levitate speed, it's gonna float over and use a lick attack on Charmander. Now the paralyzed chance is low since you need a 15 on the die. This one's trained in Brutal order, so the chance is higher. Lick's AC is 2 versus the Charmander's speed evasion, so we need to roll a 5 or higher to hit. We roll and, oh man, 14 on the die. But wait, since there was Brutal training, that means the effect procs on a 14. So Charmander is now paralyzed and will need to roll at the start of their turn to see if it goes. Now for damage calculations, the damage base for Lick is 5 for Ghastly. So we roll 1d8 plus 8 and add our physical stat. That's going to add up to 20. Charmander's physical defense is 7, so we subtract that and end up with 13. Now thankfully, the cheerleader also gave the Charmander a buff called Excited, which we can spend as a free action to reduce the damage by 5, which means we're going to now have that reduced down to 7. There is no type weakness or resistance, so Charmander just takes 7 total damage at the start. That doesn't put him at an injury, fortunately, so we then progress to his turn. Since they were paralyzed, we need to adjust their sheet, including lowering their speed combat stage by -4, reducing their movement by half that, so -2, and to roll at the start of their turn to see what happens. We roll, and fortunately, they get an 8, which means they can move normally. Well, somewhat normally. With their training and their order, their 2-hit bonus is +2, so they're going to go in fast and try to hit that Bulbasaur. Using its now reduced movement speed of 3 overland, it will then close the distance. This does mean, though, that they will leave the range of Ghastly, and so Ghastly can use a reaction to hit them with a struggle attack. We roll and oof, we got a 1. Sadly, any roll, no matter what your to-hit bonus is, means it's a miss on a 1. So Charmander ducks and dives past Ghastly to get to Bulbasaur. They get close enough to be in range and take their shot. The AC of the move, Ember, is 2, so we just need to have to overcome the target's defense with the roll. Bulbasaur has a special evasion of 2, and so we roll and I got a 10. Sweet. Sadly, we didn't get high enough for the secondary effect of Ember to go off, but that's still a hit. So next we check out the damage base with the same type attack bonus, which equals up to 6, which means we roll 2d6 plus 8 plus our own special attack, which is 12. Adding up the damage, we have a total of 27 fire special damage. Since our target is a grass type, they are weak to our attack, and they'll be having to add a multiplier later. So in this example, the math would equal out to 27 minus Bulbasaur's special defense, and the damage reduction we got from the Sage earlier, which is a total of 20. 12 from the special defense and 8 from Sage. That leaves 7 damage left over, which then gets multiplied by 1.5, giving us a total of 10.5. In PTU, you always round down unless stated otherwise, so that's a massive 10 damage to Bulbasaur. And it would have been far more if the Sage hadn't put up that buff at the start, so thank goodness. Fortunately, that isn't an injury yet, and we then go to Bulbasaur's turn. Bulbasaur is in a tight spot, but they do have some options, so they're going to go with Leech Seed. The AC of the move is 4, and since it's a status move, Charmander gets to use its speed evasion, which is a 3. So we need to roll 7 or higher on the die for this to hit. We roll and sweet, 12. Not fantastic, but it does still hit. Now at the start of each of the Charmander's turns, it loses 1/10 of its HP, and Bulbasaur gains that HP. With that, Bulbasaur is then going to beat a retreat and move. Since he's on double agility boost, his movement speed increases by 2, and he's just going to beeline it for that corner to get some distance. That leaves us with Machop, who's not too pleased about the Ghastly hitting their friend. Since the Bulbasaur is too far out of reach, they're going to double down and taking this Ghastly down, as its tagged foe. Now, as I'm sure a few of y'all are thinking, wait, isn't Ghost immune to fighting type? Well, that's what the Sage was thinking as well when they put them that far in the field. Plus, Duelist has a trick up their sleeve. Normally, when a Pokemon is immune to a move it is hit by, it does no damage, though its secondary effect may still apply depending. But in this case, Machop is going to use its swift action to use the move Foresight. This move allows the fighting type and normal type moves that it has to hit ghost types neutrally. Charging in, Machop is then going to use the move Low Sweep. We roll, and heck yeah, a 19. Sadly, even with our +1 accuracy boost, this does not make it count as a critical hit of 20. It is only on a natural 20 on the die, or moves and abilities that specifically extend crit range that can do that. That said, it's a foregone conclusion that we hit this Ghastly with its evasion of 2. We roll our damage and get a total of, all added up, 42, which is a phenomenal roll for us. In response though, Ghastly is going to pull off its own trick. Since it was hit by a move as a free action, it can use its own move called Spite, which means for the rest of this scene, Machop cannot use the move it just used again. That was our best move on Machop, so this is going to be rough. That said though, we're still going to finish calculating this out. So we dealt 42 physical damage, minus Ghastly's defense of 7, meaning Ghastly took a whopping 35 damage. Since Ghastly's total HP is 40, it means he got dropped below half, and it was massive damage, meaning it was all in one hit. So Ghastly ends up with 2 injuries right there. That lowers his max total HP as well, but it won't really be a factor in this fight. With that, we've now got ourselves in a very hectic free-for-all, and to think, that all happened in 10 seconds in game time. Who do you think is in the stronger position here? What do you think you'd do next to try and turn things around? That's really the cool thing with Pokemon Tabletop. Once you get going, things can take a turn with just a single die roll. That said, thanks to all y'all fabulous folks for watching the video this far. I hope that it was helpful for y'all and got to see a round of combat and really make sense of all the steps I've talked about before. As promised, here's a cute photo of my dog as I do the end channel stuff. If you can, a like, a share, or especially a subscribe really helps as I work on getting more of these videos out. I've been working on my way to 500 subscribers for my birthday on the 23rd, and each new subscriber really brings a smile to my face. If you can, I'd really like to break the goal and see about doing a Christmas gift giveaway if we do make it there. I've got some people lined up with some really cool TTRPG merch, so tell your friends. If you enjoy answering TTRPG prompts or questions, please join me on Blue Sky, where I post daily, which is in the description down below and linked on the main channel page. Who knows, your responses may be part of a future video. If you have any suggestions for future topics, I'm always interested in what folks would like to hear, and you can send them either by email or by joining my channel Discord, where you can talk with me and other cool people. Thanks again, y'all, and I hope that these ideas were useful to you and help you tell better tales and have even cooler battles. Bye!